Hello, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the Azure Network Chains. This episode will focus on application layer networking. My name is Dwayne Natwick. I am a Microsoft Azure MVP and a Senior Cloud Training Architect at Opsagility and Skill Me Up. I have over 30 years of IT experience and hold multiple role-based Azure and Microsoft 365 certifications. I'm a Microsoft Certified Trainer and a regional lead for the program. Just to give everybody an idea of where we're at in terms of this video series, you can see we are about halfway through the original topics that I had put forth that I was going to cover in this video series, and we are at the application layer networking, which is going to include the application gateway, the web application firewall, and application security groups. And as we do every week, we go through and talk about the security posture and just remind everybody about the security posture. And what we're looking at here is we're looking at still the perimeter network security piece, both with the web application firewall and the application gateway. We're providing that perimeter security, as well as the application security groups provide a level of networking security as well. So what does the application gateway do? The application gateway is an Azure managed service for providing layer 7 load balancing, and as well as HTTPS traffic balancing as well. It works only at the HTTPS layer, and it utilizes and has the option for a web application firewall with both of the SKUs that are available. And if you can look at the diagram, you can see traffic runs into the internet. It hits the application gateway. The packets can be filtered and read by the web application firewall, and then it is sent to your virtual machines on the back end, or databases, or whatever you are presenting to the users that are accessing through the internet. So where would you use that application gateway? You can see on the slide it is utilized for URL-based routing, where we are mapping URL paths to specific backend pools, as we showed in the diagram previously, for images or videos or web traffic. It is used for multi-site hosting to host multiple websites and utilize a single IP address for those websites. To route backend pools based on their HTTP host headers or session affinity. It can direct specific users to specific backend instances to maintain their gateway managed cookies and allow them to continue their sessions, which is very helpful from an e-commerce standpoint when you are working with somebody that might be putting products into a cart that they might be saving for later. You need to have that session affinity. It can allow for redirects for configured URL paths, rewriting HTTP headers to add, modify, or remove those request and response headers. And then for SSL termination, it reduces the load on the backend pools to manage the certificates for SSL and allows key vault integration and multi-site support for that. For those certificates. This diagram shows a different aspect of how to configure and how you might see the application gateway configured. In terms of, you have your internet, you might have virtual machines, you might have businesses that are trying to access through a front-end IP address configured, and then they have the HTTP header added to that front-end IP address to allow then the filtering. The health probe of the application gateway is then looking at the HTTP settings, it's looking at the rules of those settings, and then it is sending it to the back-end pool of resources that may be necessary to present the website or video or whatever resources are attempting to be accessed. The web application firewall then is a add-on feature of the application gateway that allows you to provide centralized protection. And as you can see, it's available both with the application gateway as well as Azure Front Door, which we talked about in the previous video. We talked about Azure Front Door. It works very similar to Application Gateway and Traffic Manager and how it is routing traffic. But the web application firewall then can protect against a lot of common attacks such as SQL injection and cross-site scripting, common injection attacks like HTTP request smuggling, protocol violations and anomalies. There's also a common rule set that you can put into play that utilizes the OWASP list of threats. And then it also has both detection or prevention modes. If you just want to detect those and work it more like an IDS, you can do that, or it has prevention modes to work like a IPS. Finally, let's talk about application security groups. So application security groups are a subset of the network security groups. And we talked about network security groups a few videos back when we were talking about, like right after we talked about VNets, we talked about network security groups and how those work. Application security groups are very similar, and they work in conjunction and in the same place that network security group rules work. And they provide that single subnet for all of the application tiers of declarative rules that can be defined for groups of servers, and you can base them on roles, and they provide those single descriptive rules based on ports, but also based on internet sources and web server destinations. So there's a little bit more that you can utilize rather than just ports and IP addresses that you can do with NSGs. So what we're going to do now is we're going to just jump into the Azure portal really quick, and I'm going to show you how application security groups are configured right within a network security group. So let's take a look at application security groups within the Azure portal. So here in my resource group, I have a network security group already created within the environment. And if I click on that network security group, it will go to that network security group, and we can take a look right within here in creating application security group rules. So if we go to our inbound security and we go to add a rule, when that comes up, we can select right in source an application security group. And you can see then that it is not seeing any application security groups that are found. So let's go back here to our application security group search. And we are going to quickly create an application security group. So here we are in our application security group area, and let's create that application security group real quick. Shouldn't take long. If you recall, in creating a network security group, it was not that difficult, and it's going to be very similar here in creating an application security group. And we're going to put it in our existing resource group, and I'll just name it ASG, review and create it. And we will deploy that application security group. And as you can see, our deployment's in process. And it is ready to go, and I can go to that resource now. So within here, you can see that there's really just access controls, there's activity logs and things like that within here. What we really need to do to utilize now this application security group is to go back to our network security group and utilize that application security group and create those rules from within there. So we're going to go back to our inbound rules, and we're going to add a rule. And now you can see our application security group is actually available. And now we can create what our port ranges are, what our destinations are. We can use our application security group and filter those destinations based on the application security group and rules, and make those priorities and make those changes accordingly. We can make it an allow and deny rule. We can switch back to basic. But really here is where we really are going to now be able to utilize those fine-grained security policies that are a little bit more application-based than the IP addresses and ports that a network security group utilizes. And we need to make sure, as you can see here, that we need to specify those rules and apply those to network interfaces that are on the same virtual network as well. So as you see, using an application security group is as easy as setting up that application security group and then assigning it to a rule within the network security group to protect that application and to provide the proper rules and routing for that application. That brings us to the end of our video. I appreciate you tuning in, and feel free to follow me on any of the social media links provided, as well as my blog site. And I look forward to providing you with the next video next week. Have a great day.